Did you know that when joining the United States Army and you find yourself unhappy, there is no 2-week notice, I quit?
What?
You must complete and fulfill your contract. My intent in this video is to share with you some of the insights, know-how, and the things to consider throughout your decision-making process when joining so that you don't make a grave mistake and choose the wrong contract. I get DM'd on a regular basis on Instagram from all kinds of different recruits expressing that they've chosen incorrectly after carefully considering new information, after doing further research after the fact, or experiencing buyer's remorse because of the high sales pressure tactics from their assigned recruiters, which causes recruits to feel doubt and uncertainty. And I don't want you to make that mistake. But real quick, if you don't know who I am, my name is Swartz, and I help thousands of people just like you across this great country make better decisions throughout the joining process, get better prepared for Army basic training, recruiting, and so much more. I have over 23 years of service in the Army with 20 years in recruiting alone. So I'm gonna break down some of the terminology and things that you should know before moving forward. With that being said, starting with the 3 components of the United States Army. Regular Army or active duty is considered full-time. Both the Army Reserve and Army National Guard are reserve components of the Army, meaning that it's part-time where you work a minimum of 1 weekend per month and 2 weeks out of the year. No matter what branch of service you join, you're gonna incur an MSO, your military service obligation of 8 years. So don't panic if you're signing for a shorter contract and when you're signing with your officer who swears you in and you're signing a form, a DD form 4-1 and 4-2, DD stands for the Universal Form for Department of Defense, your DD form 1 and DD form 4-2, okay? So you're signing for 8 years. That's your military service obligation. You owe us, or the military, 8 years, no matter what branch of service you go into. I'll break that down about the IRR, or the Inactive Readiness Reserve, which essentially is a callback list so that we don't use the draft. The draft, nobody wants to use the draft. That's like the last resort. So we use the IRR. The Inactive Readiness Reserve is a database where we store your name, your qualifications in the event that regular Army, Reserve, or Guard need your particular skill sets, activate you, pull you out of the IRR, and send you on a mission, whether it's stateside or overseas. Once you pass your military service obligation and your 8th anniversary comes and goes, the United States military has no ability to pull you back into service. So they say. But another video on that topic later, because I saw something recently. But anyway, with that being said, let's start breaking down the 3 components of the Army, starting with the Army National Guard. Everything will make more sense, but anyway, in the Guard, you have the option of a 3x5, 4x4, 6x2, or an 8x0. In the Reserve, for the most part, they only offer a 6x2, but on rare occasions, it is going to be MOS specific. They may offer you a 3x5, but most times it's going to be a 6x2 or an 8x0. With that being said, for active duty, they have contracts ranging from 2 to 8 years, with 2 to 4 being the norm. 4 years is normally the amount of time that they will offer you in most cases, but they do have while supplies last, while the need is there, they are offering a 2-year option if eligible for it. I don't necessarily recommend it, but if that's something that you're interested in, then definitely explore that. But a 2x8 or a 4x4 is generally what they're going to offer you. With that being said, just keep in mind with that 2-year contract for the regular Army, that's not including the wait time to ship out to training and your initial entry training to complete your basic training and your AIT, or your advanced individual training, meaning your job training, or your OSUT, your 1-station unit training for those who go combat arms. It doesn't include that. So you're gonna be doing about 3 years anyway. So more on that later. But with that being said, let's talk about your contractual obligation and your statutory obligation. Your contractual obligation is you agreeing to work full-time or part-time for a specified amount of time, And then your statutory obligation is you being in the IRR up until your 8th year anniversary, where you're basically on call if the shit hits the fan up until your 8th year anniversary. Let's say in the National Guard, you sign a 3x5. 3 years is your contractual obligation where you agree to work part-time, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks out of the year. Now, at the end of those 3 years, they will offer you to stay in, to re-enlist or extend your contract with or without incentives, with or without reclassing and changing your MOS into something else. But if you decide to leave and you find that the Army is not for you, cool beans, you can leave. However, your name, qualifications are stored in the IRR, right? You're gonna be on call for the next 5 years. So if Big Army, meaning regular Army, which is full-time, Army Reserve, or the Army National Guard need your unique skill set, they can pull you out of the IRR and send you on a mission either stateside or overseas. Now, in my 20 years of experience as a recruiter, the only time I've ever seen them really genuinely tap into the IRR was when we initially went into Iraq and Afghanistan and we needed to ramp up our numbers like that. But unless World War III hits or something catastrophic, likely that's not going to happen. But if you are in a unique, uncommon job or MOS, military occupation specialty, your job skill, like 35 series military intelligence or 25 series, which deals with communications or something like that, that's generally hard for the Army to fill because of test scores and eligibility for necessary clearances, the likelihood of you being pulled out for, let's say, a mechanic or a cook or something common like that, unlikely, but it's still always going to be a possibility. So just word to the wise, you know what I'm saying? So moving on to the main difference between the Guard and Reserve for a 3-year or 6-year option is all contract lengths will offer you tuition assistance, federal tuition assistance of $4,000 that you can use towards, and that's per year, towards your education. Now, the difference between 3 and 6 in the reserve components is if you do 6 years, now you're gonna be eligible for the 1606 Select Reserve GI Bill. I will post a link down below of a video breaking down the education benefits for all 3 components of the Army, primarily focusing on Reserve and Guard. However, that is the difference between 3 to 6. Okay, to include other incentives. So if you want incentives like an enlistment bonus, student loan repayment program, and so on and so forth, or the GI Bill kicker to include the regular GI Bill, then you have to sign up for 6 or more years. Anything less than that, you're only gonna get tuition assistance as far as education benefits go. But all other federal benefits are the same. That video will break it down. But with that being said, that is the only difference. Now, when it comes to active duty incentives, there's so many different variables. It would be in your best interest to, just like the Guard and Reserve, pass the ASVAB test and the medical exam or obtain all your waivers and then genuinely find out what you're eligible for as far as incentives are concerned. Incentives, the qualifications or the eligibility statuses for these said incentives change on a quarterly basis because sometimes it's MOS specific, contract length specific, unit specific, so on and so forth. So for ease of information, it's, I don't want to say it's one thing today and then you go there and you find something out different. Sit down with your recruiter, find out what you're eligible for and take it from there. All right, so now let's talk about the difference between the DEP program and the National Guard's RSP program. DEP, or the Delayed Entry Program, is a non-contractual status, meaning that you're not in a binding contract unless you get placed in a paid status. So if you're active duty, your contract is not going to be a legally binding contract in paid status until the day you direct report to the training site or report to MEPS to go to the training site and you redo your oath of enlistment. For reservists, you too will be placed in the DEP program. It's not the same across the board for all reserves to automatically get placed into a paid status. So you will still be part of the delayed entry program as a reservist, but in the reserve, they may put you in paid status in your assigned unit in the local area. However, you won't drill because you're going to be considered a liability because you need to be at least basic training qualified to go to the field and to do certain Army activities. and the Army doesn't want to entertain you because you don't have any uniforms or equipment to knock out drill, and they're not going to give that to you until you're fully MOS qualified. So yes, you may be in paid status, but you're not obligated to work on a monthly basis. So you're going to be accruing debt for your SGLI, which is your small group life insurance, until you get the training and they'll recoup that money. But conversely, in the Army National Guard, when you sign your contract, you'll be assigned to the RSP until you are MOS qualified and then get introduced to your unit of assignment. So you will be in paid status, you will be obligated, and drill 1 week in a month is mandatory until you ship out. For reserve and active duty in the regular Army, during your DEP program, you're going to be going to your weekly Future Soldier program get-togethers, do PT, physical training, maybe do some fun activities, and dependent on the Future Soldier leader and what effort they put into that program, you may learn other things that you will learn at basic training. Conversely, with the Army National Guard's RSP program, we have set training mandated through the National Guard Bureau, which is like our Pentagon, right? Version of our headquarters at Pentagon, dictate certain things that need to get done. So on drill weekends, I'll link a video down below on what to expect, but you will do your OPAT, your Occupation Physical Assessment Test, Saturday morning, followed by classes. Sundays is motivational PT, physical training in the morning, followed by more classes depending on which phase you're in. Just like in basic, there are different phases that you'll be in to receive different types of training. So again, that is mandatory. You will get paid, no ifs and or buts. Reserve, you could be placed in a paid status, but you won't be actively drilling 9 out of 10 times. And active duty, no paid status, no contractual obligation, okay? In case I didn't say it, when you're reserved, when you are placed in a paid status, that means that you are now in a binding contract, right? If in case I didn't say that, because I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. So I recommend that you do the minimum contract period, because you don't know if you're going to like this. Now, if you're one of these two applicants, choose wisely. If you know that you are a die-hard, sign me up, put me in boots kind of guy, I want to make this a career, you've done heavy research, know people that have been in, you feel overtly confident in your decision, go regular Army if that's what you want. And heed my advice from earlier. But when you're going regular Army, choose an MOS that you know you're going to like. Never choose a job because of a potential bonus, because money is not that important. I mean, it's right up there next to oxygen to survive, but never choose a specific job for a specific incentive unless that job is something you genuinely want to do or could see yourself doing and possibly enjoying, or be neutral with it while you're on regular Army. If you're going guard or reserve, again, do your minimum contract period. Job is, in my opinion, not that important unless you're 17 to 23 years old, in my opinion. And if that's the case and you don't have work experience, I suggest that you go combat support, doing stuff like human resources, logistics, supply, mechanics, communications, things that transfer over to the civilian sector relatively well, to give you some additional training experience that looks very, very good on your resume. Sometimes you get credentials, certifications, and such that you can use that would normally cost a regular civilian money at a pocket cost, you get for free by your MOS in the Army. For example, let's say you go and be a combat medic. Everyone goes, before you do your Army medic training, you're gonna get your national basic EMT certification, right? You could use that anywhere in the country, right? Other people have to pay for that. So choose the minimum contract period. And when it comes to regular Army, full-time, I recommend that you don't do the 2-year option, because it doesn't include your wait period to go to basic training or OSUT and the actual training itself. So let's say it takes you 9 to 10 months to get MOS qualified, and then another week or so to get to your unit of assignment. So you're almost in 9-10 months before you get to your unit of assignment, and then your 2 years counts or starts. You're doing pretty much 3 years. And going back to what I was saying earlier, if I didn't say it, when you're on active duty or when you're in reserve guard, to qualify for the active duty post 9/11 GI Bill, you have to do 90 days of qualifying federal active duty service other than your initial entry training to qualify for that benefit. When you're going regular Army, to get 100% of that benefit, to be able to use that when you leave regular Army full time, because you can't use that while you're in service full time. You can only use it when you're in the Guard or Reserve or out of the service completely. So you have to complete 3 years of federal service to get 100% of that post 9/11 GI Bill benefit. I'll link down the va.gov website below so you can look at the different time periods that you'll need to complete to qualify for the certain percentage of that benefit. I suggest that you do at least 3 years active duty, because if you're gonna go full HUA and go regular Army full time, you might as well get everything that you can get out of it, the full kit and caboodle. So do a minimum of 3 years. So if that means you have to do 4 years, I recommend suck it up, buttercup, do 4 years. When it comes to Guard or Reserve, Army National Guard for sure will do 3 years. Now there are a select few MOSs that the training is so long will require a 6x2 option, but always choose the shortest one depending on your MOS. So on rare occasions, like I said, in the Guard, 6 years, but in the Reserve, most of you will only be offered a 6x2 or an 8x0. Only choose the 6x2 unless the job skill has the ability to do a shorter contract. And if that's the case, definitely go for the shorter contract. Again, the only difference between a 3 and a 6 is the Reserve type of the GI Bill, called the 1606 Select Reserve GI Bill. So again, my recommendation is get your foot in the door. Whether you're regular Army, Reserve, or Guard, we all get the same training at the same locations. Do the minimum contractual obligation just to see if you like it. If you like it, great. If you're in the Guard or Reserve and you freaking love it and you're like, man, I really want to go full time, and you can't go full time in the Guard or Reserve within those 3 years, now at the end of that current contract, you can negotiate and go full time in the regular Army or another branch of service. Again, the shorter contract wins, in my opinion. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. And with that being said, thank you for watching. Team Swartz signing out. I'm about to go